Hey, this is Cardi B. You're listening to The Man Room with Marcus Bridges.
People might actually believe that one.
Yeah, no shit. I'm pregnant.
Grab a drink. This is the Man Room.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Man Room. I'm your host, Marcus Bridges. Thank you so much for joining me today. Of course, as always, you can find us wherever you subscribe or listen to podcasts. And you can donate to the show at the website. You can join the Patreon, blah, 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 all that stuff. Let's get to our guest today. Only the second person to join me a second time in the Man Room so far, and the first person to be up here twice in person. His new special's out right now. It's called Andy Andrist, Last Shot. Please welcome to the Man Room, Andy Andrist. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Hey, you're welcome. Or I guess thank you.
Hey,
Welcome me back. Yeah.
How's everything been going, man? The special, I watched it. It's awesome. By the way, you can buy it on Vimeo, and it's on Pandora as well, right?
Right. It's all across all the platforms now. It was a 800-pound gorilla. This company picked it up and does the audio distribution, and then it was exclusive with Pandora for a minute, and then now it's on everything.
Yeah.
And I have it on my website, which everything corresponded with putting this thing out. Like my friends on my podcast didn't think I could have a website up.
Yeah.
And I knew I had people working on it that knew what they were doing. But, in the past, there would have been everything would have been a shit show and it wouldn't have worked out. But I knew I have a good team assembled this time. So, yeah, I got a website, naturejack.com, where I'm selling the T-shirts and laminates from when I taped the thing that looks like you were actually there.
Okay.
And it was taped in a very small setting. So it was taped in Doug Stanhope's, basically his what would be a tool shed if he had tools. This is called the Fun House because it's just, it's that kind of room. It's the kind of room where you can jam a bunch of friends in and make it look like you're at an old-fashioned comedy club.
Sure. Well, and I found it to be really cool that they were able to get as many camera angles on you in that small setting as they were, because there's a lot of really good camera work in the special. And
it was kind of a paced together crew to send, I got Provenza to direct it, and then I gave him all the pieces of what a director would go, what the F are you doing, man? It was they made mistakes. There was one camera that was would blur out all the other shots because it was left on autofocus. So, but Paul being an old artist and all, he had to really kind of do a lot of work. But that's why it looks the way it did. It's there were certain things he couldn't use, and the definite challenges to it. So
sure.
The compliments I get from it are the ones I enjoy are the ones that also include what Provenza did, because it does look different than a lot of comedy specials. It looks kind of like what Paul was saying. I want it to look like kind of a speakeasy, and that's why I have heard people say that it's kind of feels like a different different time.
Sure.
So
much different with the camera angles too and stuff. You don't have very many wide shots that's head to toe on a big stage, because there obviously isn't that room in there.
Yeah.
So.
And I was never even on a really grand stage, I've stood propped by the microphone. I could walk around. There's hundreds of feet I could walk around, but I just stand locked up like a mannequin. So having Doug Stanhope's place where there wasn't any room for movement was perfect for me, because then it didn't look like it was, oh man, he's like, a guy told me once after I had this stage in Chicago, it's like, you wasted that whole stage. And then he handed me some cocaine, so now who's I don't know what to do here. This guy gives good advice, and now, but he's giving me drugs too.
Put me back up there after a little cocaine, you might walk around a little bit. Huh?
Oh yeah. Definitely would pace that stage with coke in my system.
See, I think I don't perform much, but when I do perform, I think people probably have that vision of me because I pace around a lot, and I do it in my everyday life too. When I get on a phone call that's like involved and I'm talking, I will pace a livestock trail around this house. And it's weird how I just go to places and I don't really think I'm going to walk upstairs or I'm going to walk into the bedroom, but I do it,
Yeah, I do. I pace around like that, but when I don't know, for some reason in comedy, it's like I'm a groomsman at a wedding. Just stand there locked, try not to fall over. In my new world, or when I restart this comedy, I feel like I should try to move around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. But
at this point, it's like bucket list item, like move more than 20 feet while performing a half hour or 40 minutes or whatever.
Once again, check out the special. I bought it on Vimeo for $10, very affordable. I definitely want people to go out, my listeners, and pick this thing up. I bought it because I knew I would want to watch it again, and I already told my wife about it, and she's super excited to check it out with me. So we're actually going to watch it again tonight. And just have a nice Friday night because, man, I've always loved your material ever since we got to work together way back at the Donkey Show. You have a voice like nobody else that I can really describe that I've ever heard, and I just really enjoyed the work, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. I know when I was like, we probably talked about this, but I wanted to do like like all the other comics go. I'm running my hour and shit, and they have their agent set up all these gigs, and then they run their hour. They go do and they show discipline. And that's just not how I work. And then I had the lead up to this, I had a few gigs that were okay, but they're not gigs where you run your hour. They're gigs where you just get through and have a few drinks and get your money and get out. But I set up a schedule that had just a few good. I mean, it was like real hit and miss. So it was like I wasn't not only getting comfortable with the material, I wasn't getting comfortable with performing and any of that shit. And then I went and recorded, and that's kind of how, it worked. Sadly, it's how that works best for me, where I feel like my life would be happier if I could do it like the traditional way, set up a bunch of things and be well prepared going in, but I go in less prepared than I wanted to be, and then up against the, it's like I don't really start diving into it until I'm ready to fall over a cliff and fail. And then I'm like, okay, how do I, how
do I solve this problem?
Yeah, I'll grab onto that ledge there and see. But that's kind of how it came about. And I'm, like I can't watch myself. And then I was just happy that what I was hearing from people, and then going, oh, wow, they really got what Paul was trying to do with it. And they, they liked what I was doing. And even though I could over explain it and go, well, on that bit, I was trying to work it all the way back here, but it's like, you can get too rehearsed. You can get too comfortable with the material, and like I've heard from a couple of people about one of their favorite lines in the thing had to do with William Howard Taft and that he was on the Supreme Court. It was like just a random fact I had in my head, not something I had prepared to oh, that'd be a good tagline. But that's the part of what I do is I throw in weird shit that even I, when repeated back, I go, that's in there? Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I learned something because I had no idea, but it worked for sure.
Yeah. I mean, his, when he went out of office, just people go, wow, he was the fattest president we've ever had. And that's kind of colored his post-presidency, I think.
Yeah. I think maybe because he's so far in the lead. Nobody's ever come within 50 pounds.
But now
of that
I feel like if there wasn't a doctor who exaggerated, I feel like Trump is because
that's true.
Older days fat wasn't quite as sprawled out as fat. It was more compact fat.
Right. They didn't have the McDonald's.
They didn't
really
have as many
in.
preservatives to really just the body just got fat based on the nutritional or whatever by the amount. But now there's all this other shit that you can get really clownish built.
Have that really front set top half for some reason that
yeah.
doesn't look like it fits on your hips.
Yeah, it's there's only certain ways that a camel looks, but now, but if you started feeding camels some of the shit that people eat, they'd have all kinds of other fucking bags and humps.
It was really cool to see on the special too, after you came in here on the podcast and talked about blowing up a pig. And I don't remember if we actually ever said that it was a glass pig. So I was kind of under the impression that it was an actual pig until I saw the intro, which, that looked like a lot of fun, man. That's my kind of fun. Just a table full of guns and a lot of stuff you can blow up.
And that's why I was like, that's what I was focused on the first day of the taping. Or no, that was the second day of the taping. The first day wasn't, we used pieces of it, but I wasn't in a good flow. And then the next day, instead of running my, going, Provenzo wanted me to like go over the material with him. So I went and he was with me on the gun range. But after that, I think he assumed I was heading back. And instead, me and this guy, Kenny, a local guy in Bisbee, played 3 12-year-olds in basketball. They were talking shit. We're like, let's go, man. And so I was there, and then I got back to where Doug's place, for the second night of the taping, about an hour before we taped. And Provenzo's like pissed off, he's like, if this fails tonight, it's going to be all our, we're all going to be bummed. And he's like, he made me sit down and come up with a set list, which is like, him and Stanhope, it was like the movie Platoon. I had, the good sergeant and the bad sergeant. And Doug was like, don't let Doug. Paul's like, dude, just tell me what you're going to say first. I'll write it down. And, because he just wanted to know. And I was like, man, that's when I come up with that line about blowing up the pig, because I didn't really know what I was going to say, but he made me write out a set list, and he wrote it real big so I could look at it on the stool in it, and it was like, so I could actually, like, I know I've had set lists before, but I didn't have them taped there and all that, and it was big enough so I could look at it, but it gave me a little comfort to go, okay, I do have a plan,
right?
Even though somebody forced my hand at the last minute, and he wrote it out and taped it on there. None of it was my idea, but it was like it gave us all a peace of mind that I wouldn't completely get, because I'll get sidetracked and forget whole chunks of what I was trying to do. And this is like for taping, it doesn't work,
Right.
So
yeah, you got to be pretty regimented, I imagine.
Right. And then within that, then I got it enough to where I could throw out some random shit that worked pretty good.
That's good. Yeah, I find myself, it's weird when I write something down. If I'm going to go do it on stage, I'll write it out like an essay. Mm-hmm. And so I forget a ton of stuff because I do it like that, rather than having, I'm such I think a writer at heart, that I am always worried about being too wordy or not wordy enough or using the right vocabulary, when really it's not about that as much as it should just be about the funniest part of the sentence,
right?
Or
and
bullet
point it and go, But yeah, I kind of feel like that's what I do anymore, is bullet point, and then just kind of go, because it's like I've done bits where I've done it perfect the first time through, and then I lose interest in it. It's like, and Doug's like telling me, like I'm on a tour with Stanhope, and he's like, do it that way, you drift that part, but it's like, it's like, I don't know. It's like you sing it great on the when you record it, and then it's like, why do I want to keep doing this song over and over?
Right,
it's like, and that's. I'm also thinking about this because I haven't done a gig in forever, and I got some things that I can go do, but it's like when you record something in comedy, you're supposed to start fresh, It's like, I want to go out, and I know Hedberg did bits that he'd done on things, but I want to just go out, and I want to work on the Mother Earth bit, like the Aristocrats, where it's like I can make it grosser. I can add element, the ocean's caught fire since I recorded that. It was like just, it can be, but I kind of want to reuse that, some of those as when I go do a gig, I want to be able to just go, I'm going to cover what I already did. So if you don't like it, as people go to a concert and they want to hear the songs that they heard on the album, but comedy, it's like, dude, we heard it.
Yeah, and I don't get that, because I would be, if it's something I liked and something that I was really excited about, because I have found myself a couple of times going to see comedians and being bummed that they didn't do certain bits that I thought were their home runs, that for sure they'll do that one. You know?
It feels like maybe like some of the diehard comedy audience made that seem like a weird thing, where it's like, nah, that's what, maybe not even the diehards, because I think the diehards would want to hear what you did,
right.
Like, Stanhope, I know he has some bits that are just so good, and they'd be good whenever you heard him for the first time or whatever, but because he recorded it and it's on something that he just starts with, which he's been one of the greats about being prolific and coming up with a whole other thing that's just as good as what he had or whatever or better. But that's not the case for a lot of comics. And, I feel like some of the bits that I recorded on this thing were not near finished,
Yeah.
So it's like I hear them and it's like, oh man, I've thought of all this other parts of it,
Right. And so why not take it out? Yeah. I'm totally in support of that.
I got no inspiration is what I'm saying. It's, hey man, how's COVID been for you? Did you get the Moderna or the Pfizer? Oh, that's cool, man. I shouldn't ask. Yeah, no, I mean, it feels like everybody's probably come out and done the same kind of thing out of the gate. But I was like, I'm not in a hurry to get back out there and be on that first. I'm not a first responder when it comes to comedy, and I want to go. I do know what I'm going to do first, and then I'm going to do something in Seattle, but I'm going to go somewhere and jump up on stage somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man.
But not doing an hour or going, hey, I'm starting from scratch.
Brand new material tonight.
Brand new material.
Yeah.
Wow, that COVID, huh? Wow, what do you guys talk about?
Well, last time we got quite a bit of mileage out of bees. You were having a war with bees, so
I know. I'm trying not to because we did a lot of my podcast during that time, and I was like, I know I'm in a loop as a human, and I'm on a loop on that show. So I was like, I don't want to be like, oh, here we are. It's back to the bee. Back to the bees. But I know that's what my life is like, right now I'm looking at the bee situation. I mean, I'm not, those were hornets and yellow jackets and shit. But now I'm trying to get more bees into my yard because I got a small patch of garden and a couple of herb plants that I'm putting some love and care into.
A little TLC.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and obviously the good bees help, but it's still those asshole bees. They don't do any good for that stuff.
Yeah, no, they bury themselves right next to your property or some, and you go, yeah, it's like I spend more money on those than it's like you want to help a homeless person, but the panhandlers, you're like, should I help? I spend more money on yellow jackets to destroy them than I did. Like I should just go get a honeycomb and put it out for the good bees. But I spend $50, $60 a month trying to eradicate these fucking temporary. It's like,
and they just keep coming.
Yeah, they're just renters, man.
They're renters, and you've got Section 8. Is what's going on. They're coming for you.
Yeah, but last year, one of my listeners on the podcast sent me a bee suit. So then once I got that, but it was very, last year with the fires and shit, and I had this bee suit, and I was going out in the smoke, out into the smoke in a bee suit to dig up, and it's like, it just seemed like end times, and I was like, why am I one of the survivors? And but yeah, that was a weird days, that 2 weeks of just apocalyptic smoke surrounding the area.
And you got a little bit clinchy on 4th of July too, because it's record, dryness. It's all this drought conditions, and they're telling people to stop watering their lawns up in Portland. And there's mortars going off everywhere.
Yeah, I did. I wondered how probably in this neighborhood where I'm at, and I go to bed early enough. I don't know. I didn't hear any, but I looked at when I drive by those things, those church groups selling fireworks. I'd be like when I see overt flag waving, I'm like, you dicks. Like, oh yeah, go. I hope you make money on those fireworks, you fucking terrorists. You're gonna, you could burn down everything with your need for a fundraiser.
Yeah, and I mean, it's true. There's a house fire in Portland that was just attributed to fireworks, I think, like in the news today or yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was a guy who I would do drugs, and I'd do cocaine sometimes, and I'd have all these illegal fireworks, and legal ones, and I'd do some blow, and then I'd get all the fuses ready, and I'd have multiple things, and when I did the fireworks, it was like as close to a rock band's pyrotechnic guy or somebody who volunteers to set fireworks off. I was that good, but I don't do them anymore because it just seems like, it seems real obvious that one spark and you could have just killed people or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
or
like,
taken their homes or destroyed so much habitat, whatever.
I don't set off fireworks now for the same reason I wore a mask. Not that I'm worried about myself, but I know I could kill somebody if I breathe in their face.
There you go. And the same reason that Nature Jack is a thing, right? It's just all that. It all kind of falls in line there.
Yeah, Nature Jack is a way to prevent future people.
Yep.
It's not anti-people. It's just, come on, man, there's enough.
It's not population control. It's merely management.
It's self-control.
Oh, man, that's great, dude. And, we never even mentioned it's something we always talk about on the show, but we are having mimosas today. It's the same thing we had last time. Man-mosas in the man room. I didn't have one last time, and I actually haven't had one for years. I really forgot how good these are.
I don't even know why, but I just get a taste. I feel a fall. I mean, I know we're in an unprecedented heat wave, and maybe it's because all the trees are dying and the grass is dead or whatever, but I just had football season.
Yeah.
And, having a tailgate or whatever. I got a little shade tent that I set up mainly for my plants and the cats or whatever, but it made me think of football season and grilling and stuff. And I know that we haven't really had that for quite a while, and the thought that they'll be up to full capacity, and that it's like, wow, I'll probably get emotional to sit in a football,
Oh yeah, for sure, because we sold our season tickets back to them. Basically, they bought our season tickets back last year. But we had to commit to this year, last year, and so it feels like now that it's 2 years in the making, and I'm ready for it, man.
Yeah.
The tailgating is my favorite part. I love football more than anybody, but it's that camaraderie and the grilling and just the smells and the sights and everything.
Yeah, I maybe this was during lockdown or one of those windows where they were like, people can go out to limited capacity, but there was two guys playing guitar like by marketed choice and stuff, and I don't even think they were very good, but it just made I started to get weepy, like I was watching a travel commercial when I'm sitting in an airport, or oh man, I miss my family. But it's just like this weird emotional reaction to even entertainment that wasn't, it's like, oh man, it's like you'll give people a little more, well, that don't sound like the Eagles, but,
But I'm here for it.
But it's like, just the sounds and the people and all that, it kind of comes together. Like football is all about, smells and sounds and everything. And, if you do it right, you shouldn't even worry about the game too much,
Right. There's enough of the games that I don't remember the second half of that are some of my favorite experitions at the stadium. So you going to come out to a tailgate this
I'll
year?
definitely be out for tailgates. And,
cool.
Right now, like I got tickets to Todd Snyder, who's going to be performing in October, and I'm going to start my comedy career in that same time frame and go, on some road trips and stuff. And it's like I'm not in a hurry to go back and make the mistakes I made before, or it's just I'm like going out and just touring a bunch and barely propping my health up throughout a long run of shit doesn't seem that appealing. But I want to do stuff that is going to be, more fun,
right?
And hopefully a little bit more financially beneficial or whatever. But I'm certainly not like, shit, man. Where's the gig? I'm ready to get in my car and drive to it. I just want, as long as there's 6 cowboys and three angry troops, I'm ready. It's like
not anymore.
Comedy. That's how you start out. You pay your dues and you're jump in front of anything. But if you're still wanting to do that in your later years and as you go up, it's like I guess that's good, but it's also pretty sad.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we're not going to see you out at any of these Eugene open mics anytime soon.
Probably not, unless I was at that Blair Alley in the back the other night.
Oh, Slice.
No, not in back of Blair Alley, but they had they had karaoke. They had a host out there, but just maybe they've done more since the COVID. But that space there, they had a cool sound system, And I was like, wow, that would actually, as far as an outdoor venue, that could be a really, poppin' area to do comedy at. Like, if I do comedy, it'll be like, I'm not going to call the local bookers and say, well, I'll give you 70%.
Yeah.
Just,
You're going to set your own thing up.
Right. Yeah, I think that's how I do something here. But
I think that's how everybody should be doing it, really. There's a few different people that are putting on comedy showcases in Eugene right now, and you can tell that it's something that they've gone out and they've shopped, and they're basically shopping a venue for it. And they're comedians themselves. They're either going to host or present or whatever. And, I think that that's the best way, because otherwise you do have to give somebody 70%.
Right, right. Yeah. And then, I don't want to name names because these guys are real douchey, but they're doing patriotic comedy.
Oh, yeah.
There's two of them. They're patriots, and, but it's like their poster is really lame. I saw one over in the coast, but it's like, but they're also making it easier on themselves because they're selling what they do. It's like, hey, they're going to say some things about liberals that are, so it's like the same thing if I was doing a show and a bunch of people who are ultra, and there's nothing wrong with patriotism as it used to be presented, but now this overt, like, Slim Jim's ad kind of, I'm an American, it's just stupid to me.
Very monster truck-like.
Yeah. So, I mean, if a bunch of those folks went to my show, they might get worked up. But if I advertised it as a safe zone for livetards, then
that's also going to get people's feelings
right.
hurt.
But it's like, and it's like I would hate to go do comedy where I was like, hey, man, everybody who thinks exactly like me, you should come out and then put a poster out as like-minded individuals. Because it's like comedy's not supposed to be specifically, we're targeting one group. And, comedy's about, kind of taking power back a little bit. And if you're just going to, jump on the same bullshit as power and make fun of the weak or the empathetic or whatever it is, I would think that I would be bored going to a patriotic comedy show unless there was like marching girls and they come out and do Yankee Doodle Dandy and shit like that.
It's gonna be really over the top.
Yeah, it's just it's, to me, it's just repackaging illegal fireworks.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny that you don't want to mention their names because I know exactly who you're talking about. We actually have mentioned their name on this show before because Chris Castle's got into a little scuffle on Facebook with one of them.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about Mr.
Elkin.
Alex Elkin.
Elkin.
Yeah, and he's been doing it for a long time, man. I didn't know this then, but apparently he started. He went on a tour, but it was like he was moving somebody across the country, so like he basically just kind of co-opted his tour, like to move him along the way, and he took like a couple extra weeks to get him over there. Yeah, and it was not planned, so it was that story when I heard it was hilarious. But I thought it was funny that the way their show was getting kind of, they canceled it in Salem.
Right.
They canceled them at the Capitol Theater, I believe, because it was I think that the venue didn't think that it was going to be like a safe place to do it because of what the material
was.
was.
And probably, I mean, and I wouldn't put it past them that they canceled it themselves.
Yeah, just for the publicity.
Because it's like not good ticket sales, and then they're like call up, hey man, I have concern about these guys. They're too extreme. I remember Chris Warren back. One of his, like back in the early days when I first started doing stand-up comedy, and he had a headshot where he was like in a gangster suit. He had like an old style machine gun, and then what you would describe in the poster as whores hanging on him, and money. It was like if you went
to a state fair.
It's like if you were a kid and you got hired to be in J.C. Penney's catalog for Halloween, or like that. But he was politically incorrect, and that was So it's like there's certain comics who just rebrand themselves as the same.
Right.
It's the same act, but they keep rebranding it. Now I'm too controversial for radio. Now I'm politically. Now it's like I'm a patriot. But I've never repackaged myself once.
No, it's always been the same, and I think that's what the good ones do. Look, if you are that far along in your career, because everybody knows they've been doing it since the '90s, if you're repackaging at this point, then it was never going to stay to begin with. Like, you were always going to end up repackaging. You know, I mean, how many of the greats out there that you grew up loving have gone through some type of major transition in their act?
Well,
you know?
Rodney kind of fell into fame late, but he was already he was Rodney. He just was doing a different thing, but between takes, he was like, "Oh hell, I don't know how this is going." I think and he presented a more confident picture back then. But I think what Rodney did is as things opened up, he's just let his inner voice out more.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm dying out here, and that became part of his overall thing.
You're talking about Rodney.
Dangerfield,
yeah,
not
man.
Carrington.
I didn't think so for a minute. It was funny because I know that this is a sin in comedy, but that's the first Rodney that pops into my head because I introduced him at the Holt Center when I was working for the radio show, and he invited my mom and my sister and I all onto his huge ass tour bus, and I could not believe the bus that guy was driving around in. I mean,
well, and it's probably he was up in the ABC money at the time.
Probably, yeah.
But I'd like to see how, as I saw him before all that, like he was in Boise, Idaho, and working, and he was, had management and things were going well. But I went to that show too. I remember sitting in the back there and going, "Why is this floor so slick?" And then they came around and go, "Would you like some chew?" Like they were good. Like, wow, man, what a at the Holt Center was like, the floor was slick with spit behind me, is what I figured out. It's like, wow, all these, they're giving out like Skull or one of the Copenhagen products to everybody.
Right.
So it's like everybody's spitting on the floor.
All ages show, kids get it. Whoever wants it can have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, it is kind of crazy how much of that stuff they give out. I've been to a couple different, at rodeos is one place. They'll have a trailer, and there'll be a line of tight pants cowboys around the block, and they'll walk in there one at a time, and they'll give them a sample of like each flavor, and they come out like a fifth grader that just came back from a field trip. They got a bag of like souvenirs, and
everybody the idea of something free, and then going like, I don't need it, but you're like, okay, I was at a Raider. It was a Monday night, Raiders versus the Chiefs in Oakland, and my friend was a Raider fan. He got us all the tickets and stuff, and I was just in this area at the stadium, and a guy just has a box, and he rips the thing off and goes, "Giving out towels, like Raider dish towels," and I got one, and then by the time I thought, I should get one for my friend, and I could have just given him that one, but I went back, which, like, I was right there when it opened, and then in the minute, 30 seconds, all hell was breaking loose, and it was like all these fucking full-grown men, some of them in makeup and Halloween, but all like the same cut of jib from the guys storming the Capitol, all a little bit chunky, all a little bit too emotional,
all a little bit
they
still
descended on
mom.
this thing, and I couldn't get back to get a second towel, and then the towel I had got ripped from my hand as I was just like getting body soaked up and punched and whatever, and it was like the scariest shit ever that I've been. It was like, that's what I think hell will be like till you get through the front area, and then I hope after that it's like, oh man, okay, here's a spot. Is there any shade tints?
It's just nothing but comedians and rock stars after you get through that first.
Yeah, it's just it's like all these it's people who don't know how to handle a meet and greet. Like, all right, just wait, man. Everybody's gonna chance to meet Rodney Carrington.
Yeah, dude, it is funny, free stuff, and I noticed it too because the other event that I was thinking of that they were giving out a ton of skull hat was a NASCAR race that I went to in Vegas, and you couldn't believe it, man. There's all this stuff to see. There's a full racetrack's worth of stuff on one side that you can go and just do, and performances, and there's all the merch and all the food and everything. And there are people that'll go out there and stand in that skull line for 2 hours in the Vegas heat in the desert and just waiting for free dip,
and then a lot of them don't even know what they're getting. It's like,
well, there's all these other
the
people.
idea of free.
Yeah.
On the I was a writer on the Man Show back in Joe and Stanhope had it. And this comic from Seattle, Yoshi, he worked for Evil Angel, one of the porn places, and they would bring bags of swag, you know, like porno swag. And Stanhope's mother took almost all the I don't know, you know, I know Doug cleaned out her place after she died, but she had to have a box of vibrating stuff anyway. But they would have all these pornos, and they would be like, you know, big jugs, and then a lot of risque titles with, you know, men with penises, or, you know, women with penis, however that is. I don't want to say it wrong.
Get canceled.
But but I would switch them around. And I would go into the crowd and go, hey, man, you like big tits? Woohoo! And I'd give them what would, you know, probably not be what they wanted. And I just felt, you know, I'd never give them what they thought they were getting in the box. It was always the reverse. You know, do you like women with tits, big tits? No, I'm kind of into women with dicks. Oh, here's one. Oh, man, I don't know how to do this for you.
You know, porn shops and porn companies are funny like that, because in my experience in the radio, the porn shops would almost give you whatever you want. You could be in there and be like, can I get the wedge and the swing and a copy of Top Guns? You know, and they'd be like, yeah, here, take all of it, you know.
They know that, well, like that kind of stuff, I feel like it, and maybe it's less and less anymore. It's probably all, you know, bought from Amazon, but they would count on, you know, you telling people where you got the big fist, and then they would go, they would actually, you know, it would pay off, or they gave you, you know, some weird titles, and then you recruited a group of people that were into those titles.
Well, at Andy Andrist Ruins Christmas, I remember there was like a 8-inch diameter butt plug that was like the size of a football on the stage.
Yeah.
Because it was sponsored by, I think, the adult shop.
Yeah, one year. Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that the other day, as how not Tanner, but the other guy on the Donkey Show that moved away first.
Drew. Well, Tanner moved away first.
Tanner moved. Okay, Tanner was bad mouthing the show, but it's like I was called Andy Andrist Ruins Christmas, and I had Justin, who was Levine's guy at the time, and he did corny magic and stuff. And it was like, but at the time I was like, man, why are they dissing on the show? But I felt like he didn't understand that I really meant I was trying to ruin Christmas. I get, you know, Billy to read just some Christmas poem drunk.
You put me on stage.
Right. I mean, but it wasn't like I'm promoting this. I want this to be the best comedy show ever. No, I just want as many acts on there, and people at the end of it going, I hate Christmas too now.
Well, after I did it, I hated Christmas because of how terrible it was for me. I went up there and bombed it, but
yeah,
I mean, it was a fun show. I had a great time.
I've always wanted to have a good showcase room in Eugene, and it's always been, I've never went out and looked. I mean, I've always wanted one to exist without doing any of the legwork on it, but it's usually, you know, a room that might be okay, but they run it as an open mic where there's 35 people signed up, and no logic put into time or any energy, whereas a showcase you get 4 or 5 people and you do a real, you know, tighter show, or whatever. But
I mean, there's been a couple of them. I remember at the green room, it was kind of like what you're talking about. There's a lot of open mics there, but it was set up correctly.
I hated that way that room was set up. It was like, good God, man! It's like, you know,
because of the bar being where it was and everything like that.
I mean, you know, not to get too John Taffer, but the way the room was set up, and then they would never cover all the distractions on stage. Like, you know, you can get a fucking curtain or something, and then but the furniture was so stupid in there. It was like, you know, like from a 70s salon or some shit.
Right.
And it didn't, you know, it's like, I don't know, but yeah, the Actors Cabaret back in the day, I liked the feel of that room. And then when I first started doing comedy in Coos Bay, I would drive up and do the Black Angus, I don't know if it was the Black Angus or that hotel there, but they had a room and I saw like Bill Hicks there.
Oh, wow.
But it was just, you know, it was a hot room, and it was like maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday night. And there's never been anything that, you know, maybe it was because I was new to it. I opened for Dave Attell at the McDonald, and I mean, I do like that room, but it's also, you know.
Huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And, but
you know,
Calhoun's was always awful. I hate, you know, Calhoun's, you were just on a dance floor, and it was just, they made all they would have had to do was build a platform at some point,
Right.
and kind of make that feel like it was a stage rather than, but that was one of the gigs I did a bunch, stand up there in the middle of the dance floor and try to get them to keep quiet long enough. Like, I know you guys want to breed. And back then, there was no COVID to worry about. And once that dance floor opened up, it was on.
Everybody got into it. Yeah.
It was truly a meat market bar.
It was funny. One time I was hosting an event down at Kowloon's, and basically my whole deal was they wanted me to grab the mic a couple times an hour, say all the things, and then it was a real easy gig, and Kip took care of me Kit Wah took care of me very well. But one time there was a DJ down there from like a different radio station, and he was playing the hits, and then I was on the mic every now and then. And he wouldn't let me up into the DJ booth. That bastard would hand the mic over the front, so I had to stand in the middle of that grind time that you're talking about, and try to talk to people bumping into me and people wanting to get their hands on whatever whatever promo items I'm handing out.
Yeah.
It was always fun down there, but it was a nightmare.
One time So I'm going to do a multiple name dropping. Victoria Jackson was in town. She was working with my friend Kelly Moran. That they had a private gig, and across town, Mitch Hedberg was going to be at the Kowloon's, and I was friends with Mitch, and so I wanted to go hang out. And so I was like, I'm going to go, and also Kelly Moran and Mitch Hedberg didn't get along.
Yeah, you told this story last time on the podcast.
Yeah, but so I kept.
Got him in the same room, right?
Yeah, Mitch was so late to his gig, and I wasn't even on the show. But Kit was like, if you go up and do some time, and then he would give me food. So I would be, like Hedberg was real late. Like he was more than like 45 minutes to an hour late.
Oh, okay.
And, like he's stoned and lost, like in Junction City or some shit. And by the time I got done, I had 15 of those. I had two stools full of little boxes of food, Chinese food. Like, oh man, I'll do another 10 minutes for Marfar chicken. And but I did like an hour and 15 minutes of all right, well, I guess I'll need some more rice to continue.
I would do 10 minutes for Marfar chicken from Kowloon's. That's good shit.
Yeah, now it's out. You can't even get it, right?
It's vintage shit for sure.
Yeah, they're out of business, right?
Yep, and it's too bad, man. And you wonder how much further that, because that's what you're talking. It was COVID, basically, from what I understand. And they're one of the only places that would deliver anywhere in Eugene that you wanted to get it. They would come to you. And so if it's going to take down that institution, God, I bet you it really wiped out some good ones,
Yeah. I mean, you like some things go out of business and you wonder, was it COVID or just the timing? It's like a lot of things where you're like, do I really want to go back into that thing? And they're like, maybe, we can use this, get some money, and then just sell it, I know that there's that bagel place, Humble Bagel, and they went out of business, but it was before COVID. But I also feel like they were just, they ran their course, they raised their kids, right? And it was like time for them to get out. But if they would have stuck around another, year, then they could have got COVID relief funds and then cashed out.
Exactly. That forgivable loan, you just go to Vegas with that, right?
Oh man, hell yeah.
So I noticed you got the Hayward Field hat on. Of course, Hayward Field here in Eugene, where they do the track and field trials. Did you go?
I went to I have a friend who's a coach at Auburn, so he's always good about getting me, because I'd go to more events if people would just give me tickets.
Right.
So
it's
I went to the NC2As, and I loved. I've always been into track. And I got a phone. I was sitting above the starting blocks for the women's sprints, and I can do super slow-mo. It's just more graceful when the women do it. It's not a creepy thing, but it's just like watching that whole, all that goes into that first, But I didn't go to the trials, but I'm bummed about that girl, that Lacara. And she should be like Nike had her on the glass window of their store, and then they took her down immediately because she smoked a little marijuana, and
because her mom died.
Because
come on,
and then she owned it too. There's a girl who I forget her event, 5,000 meters, I think. Tested positive for steroids, blamed it on a pork burrito she got at a food truck, which is pretty clever and within the realm of possible. But this Lacara the next day got on the Today Show, and if she She could have said, I had an edible. I didn't know it was,
Somebody
she could've-
dosed me.
Yeah, anything like that. She knew exactly what it was, completely owned it. I hope she makes way more on the other end. She'll be back for the World Championships. Maybe they won't have those stupid rules.
Yeah.
It's like you can do roids and shit like that as long as you figure out a way to cheat the system. But if you smoke marijuana, it stays in your system forever. And so she, knew the risk and still did it because she needed to, talk about a junkie.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah.
still,
And I saw a meme the other day that said if you can smoke weed and still win the 100-meter dash, you should get 2 medals.
and she won it with such flair. She wasn't the fastest out of the blocks. She just knows after the blocks, she'll just kick it into another gear, and she's that much better at the age of 21. That much better than any competitor that she would have faced in the thing. And to win the Olympics, she might have needed to come out of the blocks a little stronger.
Yeah.
But the fact that she smoked reefer once, it's just like stupid. It's like track athletes should be able to have a hit of marijuana after their workout just as much as a drink of beer.
Yep.
And for the world organization to discriminate, and she's going to be the one who's kicked out for that. It's like shit, more of those track athletes need to smoke weed because it's a boring sport, and most of them, they get done and then they go, it's just all the glory to God and everything. It's like, have a little personality, That's what she had. She was a little bit arrogant, but full-on personality and all that, and then now she's gone because she smoked weed. But you'll get 10 of them that'll be like, I just did what God designed for. Well, shit, man. Did you face any adversity? Yeah, but God helped me. It's like nobody wants to hear your fictional account of how you got there.
Yeah, and let's think about this too from like a gram standpoint. Like that's how they measure weed, right? In grams. How many more grams do you think Michael Phelps got in one bong hit than what Shikari got with just a little joint or whatever? You know, I mean,
I don't know all of Phelps' story, but I'll bet he would have quit swimming years before he did if he couldn't smoke weed. Because for guys like him, or people who are have a little depression or a lot of pressure they put on themselves, sometimes smoking weed just gives you a chance to get out of that loop that can be damaging to athletes or anybody. It's like this constant negativity and all that, or pressure you put on yourself, and then sometimes you just go smoke a little weed. It's what they call in therapy getting grounded.
Yeah.
It's when they go, what do you do to get grounded? I smoke weed. No, it's not.
Whoa.
No. Yeah, no, but that's getting grounded. It's like stepping away from you're angry about something and you're about to say some shit. You take a break, you go smoke a little weed, and then you come back to it with a whole different outlook on it.
Right.
And that's come on, everybody who doesn't smoke. I don't know. There's a lot of people who I don't like who started smoking weed, and I don't get it, but I think they're probably better because they smoke weed than they would have been. It's not a fix-all.
No, it's not. It's definitely, and it can't be your personality either. If that's your whole personality, it's just that you smoke weed, there's an issue there, But I'm hoping because like the NBA and some of the bigger leagues are starting to relax a little bit about it. Look, if you want to be on the right side of history, I think we're kind of proving in the United States, especially, that it's time to relax a little bit. Most of the people you've run into are high,
right?
Especially if you're in Oregon right now.
Right, and probably you didn't have this with radio in the beginning, but it's radio now. But it's like if you drug screen everybody. And you base your hiring practices on whether somebody had cannabis in their system, you're going to have a shit Christmas party every year. It'll be like, no, we don't do reefer at our, it's like, like not hiring somebody because they smoke cannabis on occasion is a crazy way to go about hiring, I think.
It is. And I will say, fortunately, they never drug tested me. Or if they did, they didn't tell me that they were doing it, and they didn't ever reveal the results.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with drug testing is cannabis is the one that shows up the easiest. And like alcohol, you can get out of your system a couple of days. Cocaine, same thing. Almost everything. Roids, any of that shit you can have out of your system or put something in there to get rid of it.
Mask it.
But cannabis, it will stay in your system because it's a part of your body.
Yeah.
It just wants to hang on and be with you.
It's a part of Mother Nature, which it all came from the ground just like us, and it'll all eventually go back into the ground just like us, But I like I said, it's always been fingers crossed. I don't like sounding like an activist because I also don't like. I just want people to be able to do whatever the fuck they want, and it's like. I find it funny that it's like you said, if you wanted to disconnect a little bit and just center yourself and get grounded or any of those terms, if you told your therapist, like, yeah, what do you do to get grounded? Well, last night I drank a fifth of Jack Daniels and threw it through my neighbor Lee's window. It's like, okay, well, we're going to back you off of that a little bit, but it's totally fine if they want to do that according to these standards. It just seems a little antiquated.
Yeah.
I know that's how we did it in the Wild Wild West days, but, we've come forward a bit.
Yeah, in the Wild West, they didn't have, the Indians had the shit, and they only used it for, with the white men for ceremonies or whatever, but, people would go in and drink whiskey, and then they'd shoot up people and shit.
Exactly. They were trying to calm the white men down in the peace
the old
peace
West,
pipes,
you check your guns at the door, and everybody gets high. There'd be a lot more old cowboys around and shit. I don't know if that would have been a good thing or not, but
the poker games would have taken a lot longer.
Right. You're cheating, man. Oh man, that's a bummer. I ain't playing with him no more.
I don't know if the music would have changed much.
Yeah.
It was pretty twangy and slow paced back then.
But nowadays it's a mass casualty shooting. But back then, it's like 3 or 4 people got shot up. It was just a poker disagreement or whatever.
Right. This guy got caught a hanger sarge and killed 3 men last night.
I don't think I like to go to bars, and like where a lot of people are armed though.
Alcohol and guns have always been weird to me. I have a lot of friends that. And this is growing up where I grew up in a town of 2,000 people where a fun day is to take a full table full of guns like at the beginning of your special and also a Yeti cooler full of every alcohol known to man.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, look, I'm all about doing some target shooting and having a beer. I don't know if I want to blow things up and drink a fifth of whiskey. That's something that you got to draw that line somewhere,
Yeah, and it's just all goes together, good time. And it's what like I said, I used to do a pretty good fireworks display, but it's one of those things in life. I think I might have moved on.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have a couple of rocket mortars, but I can't think of an occasion outside of, a certain dude dying, having a stroke on TV or something funny or, but...
You're not going to paddle out in the middle of the Fern Ridge and fire it straight up into the air?
Yeah, there's not enough water. And it just burned the mud up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like maybe the beach, but then there's all that dry grass.
Exactly. You can't do it anywhere in Oregon. Everything's a tinderbox right now.
Yeah, and I feel like that, it's the case from now on. So it's like, why do they keep trying to, bring these fireworks back? It's like there's about 5 companies that, Crossroads Ministry or, it's like, let's figure out another way to raise funds instead of putting explosives in the hands of,
the Gen Pop.
Yeah, let's face it, the people who are still doing fireworks and shit, it's like, most I'm not saying you're idiots, but most people who aren't idiots have moved on. And if you're still doing it, I don't get what the celebration is.
The only reason that I understand it from any standpoint is for kids that are too young to explain why we can't do it. And that's what happened out in front of my house. I go out there on the concrete, light up a couple of fountains, and let the kids enjoy it. I can get my head around that for sure. But it's the, after, and this really did, this is fresh in my mind from last year. After seeing the skies, like you said, kind of doomsday orange for 2 weeks plus, it was one of those things where you go, well, what is it really worth? Because those fires weren't supposed to get that close to Springfield or Salem or Portland, but they did. You know?
And when you go take a look at it, you can't, where I live, I can't help but think like on an afternoon when it's 90 some degrees and the wind's kicking on, that it wouldn't take much of a fucking bumble, somebody with a barbecue or something to send us in our cars in a matter of minutes to get the fuck out of there because,
there's no stopping it once it goes up.
Yeah. It's like, there's people, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in lots of neighborhoods where people doing the same old dumb shit they got away with before. Oh, that's always where I dump my barbecue grill. Well, it's fucking, 900 degrees now, and the wind kicks up, and it's 35 miles an hour, you dumbass.
Yeah, you can't do that shit anymore. And you also can't have a fire at camp right now. Just stop it,
I know, yeah. I don't even know, if I would want to do camping anymore.
We canceled the trip same weekend that the track and field trials were because it was supposed to be, 115 or whatever, and Ashley had us booked at a fucking dry campground where we were going to pack in all of our water and shit. And I was like, we got 2 people and 2 dogs. I don't know if we have the cargo space for the water that we'll need on a 115-degree day.
It's like that show Alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, how many more obstacles could we face on this shit?
All of them.
We didn't bring anything to boil water. Oh, fuck.
It's funny, too. There's 2 sheep in my neighborhood, and I don't mean Trump people. I mean, there are 2 sheep that are being raised like a block away in somebody's backyard. And when you really work a sheep up, it kind of sounds like a kid screaming.
Right, yeah,
And I really did think that kids were blowing their digits off when I would hear like, Pops, you know?
Why is it funny to the other kid? I get it, but don't laugh at him.
Yes. Yeah. And look, I have lived in Eugene for, 14 years now. I don't know. Is there there's got to be some type of ordinance against farm fucking animals in the neighborhood, right?
I mean, the backyard, I had backyard chickens, and they were a nuisance.
Yeah.
I was a nuisance. They were a nuisance. They left behind a trail of wreckage, and I'm glad they're gone. But yeah, I mean, I think I would be annoyed by people next to me with backyard chickens because they cackle and they announce, it would be like a dog barking for 10 minutes. Like, okay, you laid an egg, bro. I'd go out and go, "She, man, I got it. It's like, okay, I got it. But it's like they're gonna, that's the thing. They're gonna act their way.
Right.
So you bring them in. That's why they don't belong in a neighborhood, because they act the way they do. They bleat and they get all worked up at fireworks. Oh, shut up, man.
Yeah, my buddy used to have some backyard chickens. He lives over in Bend, and it's really hot in his house. So whenever I'd stay over there in his guest room in the upstairs room, I'd open the window wide open, let that cool mountain air come in. But at 5 a.m, it's like, shut the fuck up, Hey, a fox got into the hen house last night. It looks like he threw a bunch of rocks at him.
They're just cooing. It's fine, man. Yeah, I felt like they're pimp. I had 4 of them. And I would open the door down, and then they would come out one at a time, like I'm a prison guard, and you guys free to run around and shit.
Yard time.
But then they would hang out with me, and I didn't really I like to have some space between. Like, they were following me. It's like, go away, man. And then I'd pick them. What do you need, man? But they just would follow me, and that made me nervous. And then at night I would put them back in, and I had to be there because if I didn't close that, then they would get beat up or raped or some shit would happen to them.
Whatever happens at night in your backyard, right?
Yeah, so it's like, it was like whatever joy I got when one of them would lay an egg, and I know it was going to happen, and I'd boil water and go, this is going to be great. And it's like they were a hassle, and then if we weren't home at night, then the raccoon would get in and rip one of their faces off. Were you
attached at all?
No, I mean, well, here's what happened is I got 6 babies. I went out to D's out on the edge of town, and then I drove way out of town to get a thing for a case for 'em from somebody who had it. What I should have done is gotten the case first, because I drove out with these chickens in a box, and then by the time I got to my house, they were all dying.
Oh, no.
Because I didn't give them enough circulation, and then I was driving stick shift and trying to do CPR on, like, blowing in their face. Like, I could tell they were they were making a lot of noise, and then they stopped, and I looked, and they're like, oh, fuck.
Exhausted, yeah.
Yeah, they're all dying, and I got home, and one of them made it through the night. I called him Jesus, and then the next day, Jesus was dead.
Oh, no.
But I killed all of them, and then I still had the chicken vibe, or wanted to have chickens, but I killed 6 that I chose and go, that one. And I chose them, and they were dead an hour later. And so then we got 4. They were about 6 months old or less, but they were full size. And so I did kind of, I named them, and I bonded, would hold them. But I was like, I didn't feel any love towards them. And once when we were gone, the house sitter didn't close the door, and one of them got, mauled to death. And the house sitter was really shaken up by it. And I go, let me talk to him. I forget who it was, but I go, hey, man, I just want you to know we didn't love those chickens, so it's okay what happened. You don't have to cry. We're not paying you extra.
You should have seen what I was going to do to it if it fattened up. I was going to have myself dinner.
But I was like glad when they left, and it was like, it was a failed experiment. It was
Yeah.
a backyard chicken experiment. It was a failure.
Well, I hope that somehow I don't know how you fail at raising sheep in your backyard, but I hope this guy fails at some point in time.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is a weird neighborhood because you're not far from where people have farms, but this isn't a farm
No.
area, and
There's a couple German shepherds next door to me that look like they could easily kill 2 sheep, and
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
feel like maybe they should just let them run around the neighborhood.
well, maybe you could do some sort of a nature purge.
There you go.
I don't know how them dogs got loose, but they went right for them sheep. They were already covered in chicken blood somehow.
I mean, I have 2 corgis. I could herd the things up and get them out of the neighborhood if I wanted to
Don't
put in
those
the work.
things kill rats? I mean, they can.
Yeah, they can, and they're actually these corgis
They
are
thump 'em.
and they're these ones are just herding dogs. Like you can tell when you walk down the hall, they won't bite your calf, but they'll open their mouth so that it touches the back of your leg, and they try to steer you. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've had herding. I got a border collie now, but she's just now all she herds is cat food when I forget about it. But she's at the beach she used to try to get the family together.
Yeah.
It's like, good luck with that. Therapy hasn't worked. Nothing you can do.
You got a heart of gold, but it's a lost cause. at
Yeah,
this
yeah. You go ahead and nip at my feet. I don't give a shit. Just like she is.
It's funny. These corgis, when I go down to like grab them, you can tell that it's instinctual to them that they need to stay about an inch out of reach of like a hoof or something like that. Because they won't sprint away from you, but they'll dodge you like DeAnthony Thomas would.
Right,
You just or he's Floyd Mayweather. You're just not going to get your hands on him, and they're fast as fuck for having short little legs.
Yeah,
they move
yeah.
like little missiles,
They're my daughter I thought she was going to end up with one of those, and she got a Burmese mountain dog, so she went way the
Jesus.
other way.
Those things are huge.
And they're huge and kind of dumb, and but she's in Colorado, so it's like there's
Got to fit in, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a dog. I forget the town, but it's just this little town on its up towards Red Rocks. But it's she said there's a dog that hangs out at this bar, and it's the mayor of town, and it's a Burmese mountain dog. So she sent me a picture where her dog met the mayor, and I was like, well,
Wow.
maybe she can run against the mayor. But I guess the mayor is very well behaved. It hangs out in the bar.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing. What's that go to tell you about the population of the town that the person that they all came together to elect was the dog?
Well, it tells you. It explains like people like Lorraine Bobbert or whatever that win in a small community. It's like, yeah, she didn't have to run against a dog. A dog would, a dog's got way less sex scandals and weirdness and shit. So I would vote for a dog almost, across the board.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh wait, it's a conservative. I don't know.
What's that mean? Does it just have an American flag
It just
collar?
wants to shit on other people's right to vote. It seems like that's about it.
Oh man, I love it. Well, hey Andy, we're already over the hour mark, dude, and I don't ever like monopolizing people's time. But before we go, I just obviously check out Last Shot on any platform that you can find it on.
It's free on all the audio versions or some form of what you already pay for. I put it out as like there's people that I owe money to or whatever, but it's also I like people put comedy out and they go, let's make it free, like. Fuck that, let's make it free. That means you're putting it out. You want a bunch of people to watch it so you can work more.
Right.
I want to work less, so I put it out for a reasonable rate.
$10 is nothing for an hour-long comedy special.
Yeah, I did notice the marketplace, though, that people were putting them out for free, and I was like, I'm not really doing that,
No.
and if it's not worth $10 to you, well, there's a lot of things that, like you get in like a meal somewhere and you're like, this is going to be good. And wasn't all that good or whatever. This is, people like what I served up here. But if you don't like it, it's just like, move on.
Yeah.
Man, get another bowl of soup tomorrow.
And, we mentioned Paul Provenza already, but also an executive producer, a great friend of this show, Chris Castles.
And Chris Castles and Doug Stanhope's place. So it's like, and Paul Provenza put art into it. Like, I didn't know that. I just hired him because I wanted to get him going on this other project, and I thought I would, like, he called up yelling at me. He goes, you don't have any money for the camera crew? Like, I know I needed money for, it's like it's expensive to put out a comedy special if it's not, like, a company behind it. So I put it out, took a chance, and then 800 Pound Gorilla put out the audio. So that's like that was a nice thing because they, I didn't envision that. So it's, anyway, I'm trying to sell it now.
Hey, man, I'm glad that you are and I want people, like, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you back on. Obviously, we could talk and bullshit about whatever for hours, no problem, but I want to do everything I can when people do awesome stuff to promote it, and I really enjoyed it. And
I feel like I like, it was, I put it out, I mean, we recorded it a year ago, October. But I feel like, man, the timing of some of it, there's always going to be shootings, but it's just like I think more people were kind of getting in tune with, these summers are not going to get easier,
right?
Falls aren't going to be all of a sudden this you live in Eugene, it must rain all the time there. Yeah, that was that's 10 years ago thinking, now we like if it rains we all get out and do a hippie dance and cry.
Try to keep it there any way possible. Hey, the one place I can get behind it is the football games. If I never have to watch a football game in a torrential downpour again, I'll probably be okay with that, to be honest. But that's just me being selfish.
Right. Well, I mean, how quickly, after a long, hot, dry summer, it's like 3 or 4 straight days of rain, and it's like, damn, I hate this climate.
Yeah, exactly. You're a Eugenian for sure with that attitude. Yeah. That's where I'm at, too.
Now it's like, oh, no, here comes the mud season.
Yep, no more white shoes, right?
Oh, yeah, we had the fire season. One of my friends on the podcast, his grandparents live in Arizona, and there was a bunch of fires near their place, and then they got a bunch of rain, and their place got wiped out by a mudslide.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and theirs was like one of the few places,
dude.
But
that's what happens. Like, you can't have it all the way one way, or else shit starts really getting fucked.
Right. Yeah, Sedona mud bath right in your own living room.
Check out the podcast as well. You just mentioned Issues with Andy. You guys are well over 100 episodes in now.
Yeah, we were turning them out during COVID. We were just doing two a week, and they were all on YouTube. And then at some point we were like, let's scale back on the free shows, and we moved it more or less to Patreon. And we lost a few people who were like, man, I was hoping the free shows would keep coming forever. And but we got to. I like the Patreon better because I feel like I can talk more shit about people.
There you go.
Because they have to pay a certain, you got to pay $5 a month if you want to hear if I'm talking shit about you.
Yeah, there you go. Which has always amazed me that Patreon, I've seen them deplatform people before, and I've always thought that's funny. He's like, wait, this guy's getting paid by people that want to hear him say the shit he's saying. Just let him make his money, It doesn't matter if he's an asshole.
Yeah. And YouTube and everything was like, people would listen to it on that. I love listening to stuff on YouTube, but man, could you stop terrorizing me with advertisements? Like, don't break up a song in the middle of the song to advertise that you won't do that if I pay for the service. Like, you already pissed me off, and now you're like, hey man, I'm sorry about interrupting your music, but this ad's real important. It's about your music being interrupted. Like, I don't want to be your friend, YouTube.
And honestly, YouTube is, look, I'm on there. I'm not trying to downplay the platform itself, but honestly, it's the worst about it. It's the very worst one, and I'll never do the free trial. I'll never pay the premium subscription, just because I've dealt with that so
And
much.
I did it one time, and then it was like canceling was hard, and it's like, Yeah.
They're always going to make it hard for you to cancel. That's just the way that it goes,
I just got robbed by my bank in a situation. I don't want to go into it because it involves a local branch who I'm still trying to get back with, but they aided and abetted a company that took $200 for something I canceled, and I didn't get confirmation I canceled, so then I went and traded off cards. And it's just been years, like it's stayed, and then they just took $200. So I told the bank, I go, basically, you guys helped a predatory company rob me of money, and I haven't heard back from them. So I feel like I'm going to keep harassing them.
It's funny when you talk to them like that, how they start to get like they start to not want to talk to you anymore.
But it's just
it's true.
It's all ready to burn, and nobody gives a shit about your complaint. Like you used to go in and go, oh, you've been with this company 30 years, and then they won't call you back because
Yeah.
they're new people and new philosophies, and your 30-year tenure is like, well, this old guy's bitching.
Yep.
Cut him loose, man. He ain't gonna leave, or
You know, I have some family members that just got scammed on the internet pretty bad, and they called Capital One to deal with it. That was their company, and the person at Capital One, no shit, never had scams before, never have been dealt with identity theft before. Capital One goes, well, we're going to send this to like an adjudicator, and they're going to decide if you can use our stuff anymore.
Really?
Because we think that you might just be that dumb and that you're not going to learn anything. And so it's like, I told him, I was like, look, I'm not the biggest fan, but Chase Bank, they'll take you any day of the week as long as you got $5 in your account. They're not going to boot you off like Capital One. But
yeah. I mean, it's like trying to find a bank that ain't going to rip you off. It's like, oh, I've been hurt a lot.
We all have. We all have bank PTSD for sure. Andy, thank you so much for joining me, man. We'll definitely do this again. I even though I know it's probably not going to happen, I hope to at least see you out and have a drink with you at one of the open mics soon.
Oh yeah. I am going to pop into stuff. I'm just going to do what I want. I'm not going to do it because I feel like I need to get stage time.
Yeah,
or
right.
Whatever.
Hey, man. Even if you didn't go on, love to go out and spend some time with you.
Yeah, we'll do it.
And
maskless.
Maskless, and we'll definitely going to do some tailgating as well this year. So we'll have you back on the podcast after football season's back in full swing, and
talk some football.
There we go. All right, Andy Andrist, everybody. That's the Man Room Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. And transmission.